Welcome back to Captain Rook's Reading Corner. We've been working our way through Treasure Island, and we're on Chapter 5. So get yourself a warm drink and get cozy. Chapter 5, The Treasure Map. When we reached Dr. Livesey's, the maid told us that the doctor had gone to Squire Trelawney's to dine. We rode to the grounds of the Squire and were admitted warmly at the grand hall. A servant led us into the library, where the two men sat on either side of a bright fire. The squire was a tall, stout man, over 6 feet high. He had a rough and ready face, and a look that said he was better than others, or thought he was. "Come in, Mr. Dance," he said. "Good evening, Mr. Dance," said the doctor with a nod. "And good evening to you, friend Jim. What good wind brings you here?" Here you've got to look at them all. Mr. Dance stood up straight and stiff and told the entire story. The two men hung on every word. When they heard how my mother went back to the inn, the squire cried, "Bravo!" "And so, Jim," said the doctor, "you have the thing that these pirates were after, have you?" "Here it is, sir," said I, and gave him the packet. The doctor looked it all over, as if his fingers were itching to open it. Then he put it quietly in the pocket of his coat. "Squire," said he, "Mr. Dance, of course, must be off to his duties. I will keep Jim Hawkins here to sleep at my house, but first he must eat." A cold meat pie was brought in, and I had a hearty supper, for I was as hungry as a hawk. While I ate, the squire and the doctor bid farewell to Mr. Dance and closed the door behind him. "And now, squire," said the doctor. "And now, Livesey," said the squire in the same breath. One at a time," laughed Dr. Livesey. "You have heard of this Flint, I suppose?" "Heard of him?" cried the squire. "He was the most bloodthirsty pirate that sailed. Blackbeard was a child compared to Flint." "But did he have any money?" asked the doctor. "Money?" cried the squire. "That's all these villains lived for. I suppose that I have here in my pocket some clue to where Flint buried his treasure. Will that treasure amount to much?" "Amount, sir?" cried the squire. "It would amount to this. If we have the clue you talk about, I'll get a ship ready in Bristol dock. I'll take you and Hawkins here along, and I'll have that treasure if I search a year." "Very well," said the doctor. "Now then, if Jim agrees to it, we'll open the packet." He laid it before him on the table. The bundle was sewn together, and the doctor cut the stitches with his medical scissors. It contained two things, a book and a sealed paper. "First of all, we'll try the book," said the doctor. The squire and I peered over his shoulder as the doctor went through the book. It was filled with nearly 20 years of notes, dates, and strange markings. Here and there was a sum of money, along with several crosses and place names. Under the sum on the last page was written, "Bones, his pile." "I can't make head or tail of this," said the doctor. "This thing is clear as noonday," cried the squire. "This is an account book. These crosses stand for the names of ships or towns that they sank or plundered. The added up figures are the scoundrel's share." "Right you are, I believe," said the doctor. "Thrifty man, not one to be cheated." "And now," said the squire, "for the other." The paper had been sealed in several places. The doctor opened the seals with great care, and there fell out the map of an island. It was clearly marked with latitude and longitude, water depth, names of hills and bays and inlets, everything that would be needed to find it and safely anchor a ship there. It was about 9 miles long and 5 across. It had 2 fine harbors, and a hill in the center part marked Spyglass Hill. There were 3 X's marked in red, 2 on the north part of the islands, 1 in the southwest. Next to this last X were the words, bulk of treasure. Over on the back was written, "Tall tree, spyglass shoulder, bearing a point to the N of NNE, Skeleton Island, ESE, and by E. 10 feet. The silver bars are in the north spot, near the east hill, 10 fathoms south of the black crag with a face on it. The weapons are easy to find in the sandhill, end point of North Inlet Cape, bearing E and a quarter N. J. Flint." That was all, but it filled both men with delight. Now you'll not be sharing this with nobody else, but here be a picture of the treasure map. "Livesey," said the squire, "you will give up your medical practice at once. Tomorrow I start for Bristol. In 3 weeks' time. 3 weeks! 2 weeks! 10 days! We'll have the best ship, sir, and the choicest crew in England. Hawkins shall come as cabin boy. You, Livesey, are ship's doctor. I am admiral. We'll take my servants, Redruth, Joyce, and Hunter. We'll have a quick passage and no trouble finding the spot. And we'll have money to eat, to roll in, to play with ever after." "Trelawney," said the doctor, "I'll go with you. So will Jim. There's only one man I'm afraid of." "And who's that?" cried the squire. "Name the dog, sir." "You," replied the doctor, "for you cannot hold your tongue. We are not the only men who know of this map. These fellows who attacked the inn are after this map and the treasures. None of us should be alone until we get to sea. Jim and I shall stick together in the meanwhile. You'll take Joyce and Hunter when you ride to Bristol, and from first to last, not one of us must breathe a word of what we've found." "Livesey," returned the squire, "you are always right. I promise. I'll be as silent as the grave." And they made a toast to it. I lived on at the squire's hall with Tom Redruth, the squire's gamekeeper. Squire Trelawney was hard at work in Bristol, finding a ship and a crew. Dr. Livesey had to go to London to find a doctor to take his place in the village. This all took longer than we had planned, and I often felt like a prisoner with old Redruth. My days were full of sea dreams and strange islands and adventures. I thought about all the markings I could remember from the map. Oh, we've got a bit of trouble from the storm coming up. I would sit by the fire and picture that island. In my mind, I explored every part and climbed the tall hill called the Spyglass. Sometimes we fought with savages. Sometimes dangerous animals hunted us. But nothing I could dream up would ever be as strange or as awful as what our real adventures turned out to be. So the weeks passed on, till one fine day there came a letter from the squire. Redruth opened it and read it aloud. The squire had found a ship called the Hispaniola. She was at anchor, ready to sail. She weighed 200 tons. He wrote that his friend Mr. Blandley was very excited about our hunt for treasure. "Oh no," I said. "The squire has been talking." Here's Jim's dreams. The letter went on to say that he had hired a sea cook. His name was Long John Silver, and he had lost a leg while serving in the Royal Navy. This cook helped him find a good, tough crew of old salts. Mr. Blandley found us a captain, a stiff man, but a good man, and Long John Silver found a first mate for us by the name of Mr. Arrow. The good ship Hispaniola was ready to sail. A few final notes. I was to go with Redruth and spend one night with my mother to say goodbye. Then we were all to come as soon as we could. Lastly, Mr. Blandley promised to send a search party if our ship did not return by August. Imagine my excitement. The next morning Redruth and I set out for the Admiral Benbow. My mother was in good health and glad to see me. The inn had been repaired and painted, thanks to the squire. He had even hired a boy to help my mother while I was gone, and this made me realize that I was truly going away. I had a few tears. The next day, I said goodbye to my mother and the cove where I had lived all my life. I thought of the old captain, how he had walked this beach with his drooping hat and his brass spyglass. Then we were on our way. There he is, saying farewell to his mother. That be all I'm reading for tonight, but I hope you'll be joining me again next time at Captain Rook's Reading Corner, when we set out for adventure on the high seas.